Danielle, are you there? You're looking absolutely amazing. I really want to know more. How did you become such an influencer? You are an expert in relationships, and of course, you have a great journey and great story. But I want to leave it to you to share a little bit more about you. And over to you, Danielle. I can't wait to introduce you to our community.
Well, thank you so much. I am honored to be here with all of you beautiful women. And I guess my story is my husband and I, we've been married going on 44 years. And we have 3 adult children, 5 grandchildren, and 1 that's due this month. So that'll make 6. And my husband and I pastor a church, and we have been in full-time ministry pretty much our whole married life. And my son, about almost 1 year ago, we started doing social media. I was on social media a little bit here and there, nothing regular, because it made me nervous because of the technical part. That's pretty much it. I couldn't be consistent. And the stuff that I'm, doing on social media today is stuff, for men and women that I've been teaching over 20 years, in church and in businesses. I do a personality workshop, and then I really zone in on helping women to understand men and helping men to understand women so that we can all live in peace and harmony together. And a year ago, my son, who lives in Dallas, I'm in California, by the way, he said, "Mom, we need to start a podcast." He goes, "I want you to fly out here to Dallas every month, once a month, and we're going to start a podcast. You need to get your information out there." And I say, "Well, I don't know how to do that." And he goes, "I know. My son's the real techie kind of guy." So for the last year, I've been going to Dallas every month, and I get to see my granddaughter. So it's great. It's fun. And we record our podcasts, and we get as much in as possible in the 3 or 4 days that I'm there. And so he's the one, really, I can't take credit for this, but he's in charge of my social media. He's the one that's got me on all the different platforms. And I think when we started, I had 700 followers. And I think as of yesterday, I'm at 179,000 followers now. And we have a YouTube page, and the podcast is on YouTube.
I have just shared the link of your Instagram. Ladies, go and find Danielle right now. And your challenge for today is going to be, you are going to record a little piece of this masterclass, and you're going to tag Danielle in Instagram. So Danielle is going to repost it. Yeah? Are you going to do that, Danielle? Amazing. Sure. Well, first of all, I picked up a few things from what you just shared, and thank you for being so humble and modest. But hello, you said it's all my son, is his credit. Whose credit is that your son is so amazing?
I'll take that.
Exactly. Let me tell you the difference. I am very proud of my son. Absolutely. He's an amazing, amazing boy. But one thing that I am sometimes upset with him is because he doesn't get my social media. I wish he could come to me and said, "Mom, come to me and I will record you." But I must say, he did all the tech setup for my podcast. And my ladies, he does all the behind the scenes. But when he sees me all the time in social media, he says, "Mom, what are you doing? Do you ever work?" I said, "That's work, my son. That's full-time work. That's my priority." Now, so before we go to how does that help you and your clients and people who need to access your knowledge, tell us a little bit on what inspired you to talk about relationships. What inspired you to turn this into the topic of your life?
I've always been interested in psychology, and I've always been really into marriage and family. I came from a divorced home. My dad left that when I was about 10 years old, had 3 other siblings. And my mom always said, you always have to have something to fall back on. Like, you can't just depend on a man, and you need to get your education. You need to, learn a trade or something, to have something to fall back on. And because she had nothing when they divorced, I mean, she was just this little Midwestern girl who had 4 little kids and now no husband. They were only married about 12 years. And so she had to go get a full-time job. And she was it was really hard on her because she had to leave her kids, you know, and get babysitters. And anyway, so I remember that video, that a videotape playing in my head, that I cannot get married too soon. I need to first get my education and have a career. And so, but I think in my heart of hearts, I really wanted to be a mom and I wanted to be a wife and raise a family. But I was in school, in college. I met my husband and he changed my life. I mean, when he came into my life, he just changed my life. I was only 18 when I met him. We got married at 19. And when we first met, he told me, he said, "You are a really likable girl." He goes, "But I don't want anything to do with you because I don't need any distractions." He goes, "I am going to be a pastor." He was only 21. He goes, "I am called to the ministry. I'm going to be a pastor and you're a distraction. I can't be dating any girls because I need to stay focused." And I just thought that was so funny because I wasn't even interested in him. And he's all having this talk with me. And needless to say, 18 months later, we were married.
Wow.
When he didn't want anything to do with me. So we did get married young, and we thought we're not going to have kids for at least 5 years because I got to get my education. And he was like, "Great, that's good." Well, 4 months into marriage, I get pregnant. And we're like, "Oh no, that wasn't part of the plan." That wasn't part of the plan. But I was still in school, going to college. But then being pregnant, it's like all that maternal stuff started kicking in. And I really just wanted to be at home and raise my baby. And I knew that I didn't want to farm my kids out to nannies or childcare, that I was going to be their main caretaker. And my husband was in agreement. So, he did become a youth pastor. We were youth pastors for a long time. We were making babies. I quit work and I just was home. We didn't have a lot of money, but it's what was of value to us at that time. And so, anyway, so I was just always very interested in marriage and family. And I didn't really set out to be a relationship coach or expert. I read everything I could get my hands on. I wanted to be the best parent. I wanted to make sure that we would never end up divorced. So I read all the books and listened to I have lots of different mentors over the years. And little by little, I just started teaching on marriage and family and relationships, and everything I learned, I just started teaching.
I have heard quite a few of your videos. I mean, usually I'm not a consumer, but it takes me something very special to attract my attention. And you definitely have attracted my attention because the way you speak and the message that you share, it's so professional. So what are the main challenges that couples are going through right now? What is your experience now as a relationship coach?
I mean, of course it's different for everybody, and of course it's personal, but I think there's 2 main things for men and women. And what I was going to talk about today, I have seen a couple men on, but I really want to talk to men. And then I want to talk to women too. And I think, when I start to teach women, you will learn a lot about yourselves through this too. But I do seminars for men only. I call them If Men Only Knew. And I tell them things about women they probably don't know. And then I do seminars for women only about men, about things that they might not understand about men. But I think one of the main challenges is, women have become very independent. We have the feminist movement to thank for that. We get equal pay for, equal work now. There's equal rights. And that's wonderful. I'm all about women's empowerment. I think that's awesome. But because women have become so masculine, it's kind of like, what do we need men for? We can do everything ourselves. I don't need a man. I can, work. I can buy my own car, my own house, have my own bank account. I can vote. What do I need to
have my own baby without a man?
Don't even need a man to have a baby anymore, right? Just go to the sperm bank. So I think because in a relationship, you need to have one masculine energy person and one feminine energy person. That is the only way a relationship is going to work. So because men are masculine and women have now evolved into this masculine thing, because the work arena is a masculine arena. So women aren't in the homes anymore. They're out working full-time jobs and then trying to raise family. And, you know, the feminist movement taught us that we could have it all. We can have a career, we can have a marriage, we can have kids, and we can have energy. And that's just not true. It's not true. But I think a lot of us.
Okay, what is the truth, Danielle? What is it? Tell us the truth.
We can't have it all. We can't have it all at one time because something's got to give. If you're working a full-time job, you're trying to stay married, you're trying to raise kids, something is going to suffer. It's either going to be the kids are going to suffer, your marriage is going to suffer, or you are going to suffer because it's exhausting. So you may be able to have it all in a lifetime, but you can't have it all right now. And the feminist movement, you know, it was great for women's empowerment, but it's wreaked havoc on romantic relationships. Okay. Because again, you've got to have a masculine and a feminine in every relationship. So women have become so masculine. So now her masculine energy is bucking up against his masculine energy. And now there's
what happens, Danielle? What happens when woman doesn't want to be masculine, but because the man is not taking that responsibility, then they feel that somebody has to step up. And
well,
how do the dynamics change in this case?
I totally understand that. And a lot of women have to be masculine because they are supporting themselves. And hopefully you're not in a relationship where a man is not working because you're going to lose respect for him. But if you as the woman get to decide what you want to be. Do you want to be the masculine in the relationship or do you want to be the feminine? If you want to be the masculine, meaning you're producing, you're providing, you're protecting, you're calling the shots, you're leading, you're in charge.
So do you think that works? Do you think
if you want to be that, you will attract a feminine energy man. So, and that's more power to you. You know, the feminine energy men are like the artists, the writers, the poets, the designers, the fashion designers, like that's the creative side. And they can be very masculine, but they have feminine energy. And so if they are more feminine, then that'll work for you if you want to be the masculine. But if most women, not all, but most women will say, I want a strong masculine man, a leader, a protector, a provider, then you have to be your most feminine. When you are your most feminine, he can be his most masculine. Even when you think you can do it better or you're smarter, sometimes you just got to be quiet. And sometimes they fall on their faces, their handsome little faces, you know, but we've got to be willing to, if you want a masculine man, masculinity is
But does it happen sometimes that we don't know what we want? We think we want the masculine, but then we end up being the masculine. And then we think we have the ability to change our partner, or we try to change them and it doesn't change, and then we change ourselves. So how do we get ourselves into that journey?
Well, I always say to women, don't marry a man that you look at him before marriage and think, okay, how much potential does he have for change? Because women are really good at trying to change men.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Don't marry a man that you can't live with who he is right now today for the rest of your life. If you can't live with who he is right now today, then he's not the one for you, because most people don't change that much unless they want to. He's got to want to see the need for change and want to change. But that's not your responsibility to change him, nor is it his responsibility to change you. See, women go into marriage saying, how much potential does he have for change? Because once I get him to do his hair right, dress right, load the dishwasher right, make the bed right, do everything right, then he's going to be the perfect man for me. And so men, when they look at a woman to marry, they're thinking, I hope she never changes. I hope she never gains any weight. I hope she stays just as pretty as she is right now.
So, Danielle, you're saying that because you have both experiences, you work with men only, you work with women only. So you're saying that women always create that kind of imagination, how it's going to look like in the future. But men marry the woman that is today, and they're not looking for change.
Right.
As women are expecting for men to bring that change once they get together. So
the only reason Go ahead. You go ahead. What
Yes.
were you going to ask?
What is the reason? What is the rationale behind it?
See, I think women they expect men to be like women. When you ask a woman, what is the kind of man that you want? Oh, I want him to be sweet and kind and compassionate and sensitive. And well, you just described a woman. That's not how men are. Men have testosterone, which drives them to be aggressive and competitive, conquering, protecting, providing. We men have 16 times more testosterone than women. So we want them to be sweet and sensitive. That's not how men are. That's not how they're wired. We want that strong masculine man because that makes us feel safe, right? But then we try to domesticate them and change them into women. So that because we feel safer with them when they act like women. But I don't. And so what we do is we start to emasculate them and we put them down. We roll our eyes when they say things that we don't agree with. We try to get them to do things the way a woman would do it rather than just letting a man be a man. And I think femininity isn't even just dressing feminine. It's letting men be men and accepting men for who they are. And when we understand hormones, like hormones has a huge impact on relationships, huge impact. And so when we understand a man's hormones and testosterone, why they have the testosterone they have, it's for a really good reason. So that because it makes him stronger, it makes him the protector. He's designed to protect and provide. But women, again, because of where we have evolved over the years since the 1960s, since the feminist movement came into play, because women have been taught you don't need a man. At first, the women's movement was great. It was like equal rights for equal pay for equal work. That's awesome. But then it took a turn where it started to devalue men, diminish men, demoralize men, put men down, trying to make us like we're as powerful or more powerful. That's not how God designed mankind. He designed men to be stronger, to be the workers. He designed women to be the nurturers, the comforters, the tender ones, the compassionate ones, because we need that to raise children. So I think we've gotten our roles really messed up in our society. And it's almost like what women have evolved into and what marriage was designed to be, it's like they don't even go together anymore, which is really sad.
Well,
so
you,
women,
Danielle.
I think.
You're so right. So another thing which I was picking up from what you just shared is when you mentioned the change. What happens when, in fact, at the beginning starts great, but one of the partners change and the other one gets stuck and doesn't progress? So what happens when two partners fall apart, not because they don't love each other, not because they don't want to stay in the marriage, but because that change gap has become so big?
Well, and I think it depends on what the change is. Again, and then that's personal to each couple and each relationship. But I know when my husband and I got married, I remember hearing people would say things like, oh, well, we just outgrew one another, or I outgrew him, or he outgrew me, or so, and we changed. My husband and I decided that two of us decided together that we want to grow together. That we don't want, that we both, I'm in my lane, he's in his lane, but our lanes need to be going in the same direction, not separate directions, right? And I remember there was a time when he went to a conference, and he came back a changed man. I mean, he learned so much at this conference at that time. And I just had a newborn baby and I couldn't go with him. And I was like, wow. And he just couldn't quit talking about all the stuff he learned. And I thought, man, I want to stay on pace with him. I want to go to that conference. I want to learn. And so the next year he took me with him because I always thought, I want to make sure that I'm growing with my husband, that he's not going to outgrow me. I'm not going to outgrow him. And I think even before you get married, when you're deciding who to marry, you want to pick somebody that is into personal growth. Like they are as into it as you are. That, if I read a book or learn something new, my husband's not a big reader. I am, but I will read to him things. I'll say, listen to this. Oh my gosh. We're on airplanes or we're in bed at night. I'll say, oh my gosh, you tell me what you think about this. This is what I'm learning. And he's all about that. Like he's not for him, he's more of a auditory learner, I guess you would say, and I am more like visual. So he doesn't mind me telling him what I've learned out of a book because he's into his personal growth also. But I think that's important that you both decide that that is important for both of you to grow, to evolve, to take care of yourselves. My husband and I said it would be a deal breaker when we got married. We said a deal breaker would be if you don't maintain your health. I was a fitness instructor for 20 years. I was really into health and wellness. And my husband was an athlete, and we always said we're going to be people that work out. We're going to stay active. We're going to eat right. We're both into our personal health. But again, that's why you've got to find out, like before going into marriage, do you have those commonalities? Because if you don't agree on anything, you're not compatible. Why are you going to marry someone you're not compatible with?
Yeah.
So
so true. So what else is important in the marriage apart from this compatibility? Do you think that also the space that we create for each other, that bond that we create with each other, that emotional connection where we feel safe to open up, where we feel safe to express ourselves, and that is one thing, but also that space that we create for each other to be happy, to be seen, to be heard, to be passionate. So can we explore a little bit more about this?
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that men, especially, and I think there's a couple men on here, so I'm glad to see that because I wanted to teach them something about how to listen to women, because that's one of the biggest areas that the feedback that I get is that he doesn't listen. He doesn't hear me. I say it to him and it's like he doesn't even hear what I'm saying, or he cuts me off, or he doesn't let me talk. And so I like to give men steps to listening to a woman, because when a woman feels, the most important thing in a relationship for a woman is to feel safe.
Yeah.
And what is one of the things that makes a woman feel safe?
Yeah.
Connection, closeness, being cared for. So what makes her feel connected? When she feels heard. And so men, probably the biggest mistake men make with women is not listening. And when I've talked to thousands of men, and I always say, what do you think the biggest mistake you make with women is, that men make? And nobody knows. I think I've had two over 20 years that have actually knew the answer, and it was that we don't listen. Men don't listen. And so I give men steps of how to listen to a woman. Because if you do it the way that I teach to do it, your wife will feel so connected to you, so close to you, that she will make herself so vulnerable. Because a woman isn't going to be vulnerable and uninhibited, especially in the bedroom, if she doesn't feel safe and connected with her husband. So that's something really, really important. And then the other thing for women, something that makes men feel very disrespected, and respect is huge. It's huge in relationships. In fact, research shows that 80% of men that were asked said that they would rather be unloved and alone than to be disrespected. Like, respect is huge. And if they can't get that in the relationship, that will be something that tears your relationship apart and chips away at the connection. So for women, they need to learn, what does respect look like? Because I have women all the time say, well, I respect him, but he doesn't think I'm respecting him. And so I say, you've got to ask him, what does respect look like to him? You might just be missing it. You're like, and there's times where I make mistakes like this all the time with my husband. I'll say something, and the tone in which I say it, or the way, if I'm flippant, it will send him. Like, he'll be like, that is so disrespectful. And I'm like, what? How did, I don't even know, but the way it landed on him was a sign of disrespect. And so I have to hear that and go, okay, wait, whoa. Okay, so that wasn't my intention, because I totally respect you. Let me change that. We all have our filters, and how things land on us differently depending on what your filter, what your background, what your past looks like. So sometimes it just could be a woman's tone. And I hear men say that all the time. The tone is everything. When you ask a man for something that you want or you need, you need to ask him in a loving tone of voice, not a naggy, irritated tone of voice. That little adjustment can make all the difference.
So you are saying, yeah, go on.
Another thing I think that is really causes a disconnect between men and women in relationship is that women have this expectation, and I call it a toxic expectation, that men need to relate to their feelings the same way that a woman relates to her feelings. And we relate totally different. Men don't relate to their feelings the way women do. Men don't trust feelings. They trust facts. It's just how they're hardwired. So they don't act on feelings very often, and in general, of course, men are more logical in general. Of course, there's some men that are more emotional. I'm married to one. And women are more emotional beings, right? So you hear women will say, well, how do I get him to open up? Well, what you really mean is, how do I get him to talk about his feelings? Because our feelings are so important to us. They're like another organ in our body. We put a lot of weight into our feelings. We want men to talk about their feelings because then we feel like we can get more connected with them. We can get to know them better. But for a man, when you say, how do you feel about this? He's like, a feeling? Oh, I got to find a feeling? A feeling? But if you just ask him what he thinks, what do you think about this? Here's how I feel as a woman. What do you think? Because men are more logical. They can relate to that word think, and you'll get more out of him and you'll learn more about him. Ask him what he thinks. He trusts facts. He's going to tell you what he thinks. Women tend to be led by their emotions, which I always tell women, emotions make bad leaders. All right. They have no intellect. They're like toddlers. Okay. They're like little kids, and our feelings change from 1 minute to the next, 1 hour to the next hour. So we can't always make decisions based on how we're feeling. We need to, like my husband always says, give it the 24-hour rule. Like, if you're still feeling that way tomorrow morning, we'll talk about it. But we need to just honor our feelings, because feelings aren't good, bad, right, or wrong. They're just there, but we can't always move on our feelings. Our feelings don't always tell us the truth. And women put so much weight into their feelings that sometimes our feelings override reality. They override what is actually truth and what is a fact. And that's where men come in. That's where men can come in and talk us down. They can help us sort it out. They can lead us through some of those feelings.
Wow, that's incredible. So how about you tell us one of your experiences? How did you overcome challenges? Because, every relationship has challenges. Usually,
yes.
when you have a challenge, how do you overcome that? And also, when is a challenge, there is always a tendency to blame. And how do you overcome that tendency? Because it's very easy to blame in people. It's not my fault. So how do you overcome that? And we know blaming doesn't help, criticizing doesn't help, negativity doesn't help. But how do we deal with it? And how do we come to a level of trust and safe and bonding and that relationship that we deserve to have?
That is a loaded question. Yeah, I mean, we have to learn to communicate. We have to learn to communicate with one another. If you don't have any communication skills, if you don't know how to resolve conflict, then stuff just gets swept under the carpet and it just festers. It just festers. And that's why it's so important to talk. But, men think the more a woman talks, the worse things are going to get. And women think the more we talk, the better things will get, because we sometimes just have to process. We have to vent. We just have to get it out. And when a man is listening to a woman, he usually listens to her in two ways. He listens for the point, and if she's upset, he listens for the problem. You have to understand that men are natural problem solvers. Okay, this is built in them. It's baked into their biology. They are natural problem solvers. So when you start talking to a man, and you might just need to just vent, you're going from topic to topic and you're just getting it out. And he's like, what's the point? And sometimes we don't even have a point. We just need to get it out. or we take a really long time to get to the point because we're given all the details. And I always tell men, if a woman is giving you details, it's because she trusts you. And if you're not giving her any details, then alarms are going off. She's like, what? You don't want me to be a part of your life? And that's why women a lot of times will ask so many questions, which will cause a man to feel like he's being interrogated. And I know I'm a question asker. My husband, we come home at the end of the day in a cycle. What did you do? Where did you go? Oh, you had lunch out? Oh, where'd you go? What'd you eat? What'd you order? Like, I like all the details. and he's learned to give me the details because, again, it makes me feel connected. But for a man, he doesn't care about the details. He doesn't need all the details from you. And that's why he's just listening for the point. Now, if
if we're not asked for details, we feel offended. So you're not
exactly
know about my day. Where did I go?
Like, you don't care.
Who do I meet?
Yeah. Care about me? Right. And then if you're upset and you're talking, let's say you're talking to him about something that upset you or a problem at work or something that happened with the kids. Well, because men are uncomfortable around upset women, they want to fix them. And that's why we'll be processing. If we're upset, we're not looking for a solution. We just got to get it out of us. But he'll stop you and interrupt you. And because he wants to fix the problem because you're upset and he doesn't want you to be upset. So it's like, we're like throwing up. I always tell men, you need to visualize holding a bucket. And when she starts talking to you, just let her throw up in the bucket. She's getting it out. And you know how you feel after you throw up? You feel better, right? You always feel better when you're sick. You throw up, you feel better. So when you get, if he interrupts or starts trying to fix you or fix your feelings, it's like throwing that puke back in our face. And then we feel suffocated. And then our stress levels go higher because for women, in order to relieve the stress, we have to talk it out. For a man, in order to relieve stress, he's got to take action. He's a doer. He's got to move. He's got to go for a run or, he has to take action, but we just need to vent and process. So we're talking about communication. So when talking to a man, I always tell women, first of all, ask him for a time to talk. When you need to talk to him, ask him for a time to talk and tell him he's not in trouble. Now, some women will say, oh, that's so condescending. They think that's condescending.
Yes.
But I'll tell you why to say that you're not in trouble or say
yes, because okay. Usually I have heard that if you, even myself sometimes, when I say, hey, we need to talk, I say, oh, am I in trouble?
Yep. Men always think they're in trouble with women, especially when it's, honey, we need to talk. But if you don't say, hey, you're not in trouble and everything's okay, I'm not upset, everything's okay. If you don't say that, they'll come to the conversation defensive. Like they're getting ready. They're getting prepared, because they're.
And imagine how the conversation starts when two people are coming to that level.
Yes. And if he's defensive, he can't receive. So if you ask him for a time to talk and he may say, yeah, in an hour or right now or tomorrow, whatever. And then when you have that time to talk, you need to be very specific. Tell him exactly what it is you want or what it is that you need in as few words as possible. And let him know if he can meet this need, this is what it would provide for you. Because
it has to be something for something. So it has to be something in exchange, yeah?
And men are providers. They want to provide. I believe men really want to meet women's needs. They really do, if they can, if it's within their wheelhouse to do it. But a lot of women don't know how to express what they need. So
now,
they'll talk.
Danielle, let's talk a little bit about that as well, because do you think that all men really want to meet women's need? And
I do.
How about women that especially recently, we hear more and more women are really not being happy with their needs being met. And last night I was invited to speak about women and age, and how things have changed and how things change with age. And we're talking a little bit about dating at a certain age. And I heard some interesting points, women saying like, there are no men out there. There is no way. I mean, they shared some incredible stories where they were like real case studies to explore. So do you think that there is a serious concern here, or is it up to us? How do we treat the problem?
I think healthy masculine men want to meet women's needs. They want to give to women. They want to make women happy. Not that it's their responsibility to make us happy, but we need to be happy in and of ourselves and not expect other people to make us happy. But I think that men want to make women happier. They look at a woman like, what can I contribute to her life? Especially a woman that he is thinking about marrying. If there's nothing you need from him and he can't contribute to your life in any way, he's going to move on to the next woman, because a man wants to be needed. I think it's part of his makeup. Again, if he's a healthy masculine man, there are some unhealthy men out there that aren't kind to women, that do want to hurt women. I'm not talking about those men. It's like, it's obvious that they're unhealthy, but a normal, healthy, masculine man who is, again, healthy, loves women, appreciates women, wants to be a woman's hero. And if he's angry, I mean, on my social media, I have to admit, I was shocked at how many comments I got from men. I mean, I set out to talk to women, and my following is 80% men, and I was shocked. But I'm telling women, here's how a man is. Here's how men think. Here's how men are going to respond. And the men are commenting saying, yes, yes, yes. Like one of the posts I did recently, I said, try this for the next 5 days, ladies. Try this. All the little things that you would criticize him about, or little things around the house that you want done, or whatever he's not doing. What if you, for the next 5 days, only said the good things to him about who he is and what he does and how much you love him and how much you need his strength and how you're so happy that he's such a man's man. Like whatever it is that you appreciate about him, don't criticize, just say the good, and just watch and see if all the little things you wanted done don't get done, or actually get done. They take care of themselves, or he just naturally starts to do it because you're positive, you're lifting him up, you're edifying him. But I think women and the men were like, it'll never happen. She'll never do it. No, one woman said, he's going to think I'm ill. It's like, is that how bad it's gotten where you can't? One woman said, can you give us some ideas of nice things to say? I'm like, you can't think of one nice thing to say to your partner? Like, you can't think of one. I have to tell you what words to say because, again, it's personal. What do you like about your man? And if you go back to when you were dating and courting and falling in love, and you are able to look at the past with and it brings you joy and it helps you to remember, like, oh my gosh, this is what, these are the reasons I fell in love with them. And you start putting that back into him and just sprinkling, dropping little seeds of all the good stuff. It will change your relationship. And I believe, and then women all say, well, what about us? What about us? Doesn't he have to say nice things to us? I talk to women a lot because I believe that women are so powerful. I don't even think most women know the kind of power they have when it comes to men. I think you have huge power. Men need women. They need women. I mean, women refresh men. They renew men. They, not just sexually, but I mean, a man lives for his woman's respect, her approval, her affection, her appreciation. Men live for that. But I think we have gotten so, as women, because we've become very masculine, we've gotten very critical, and we want things done a certain way. And of course, we know the right way. And if you don't do it my way, it's the wrong way. I mean, and it's like, you got to decide pick your battles. Like, you want to die on that hill because he didn't load the dishwasher right? Really? Like, let it go. Like, let's argue about the things that are really needing to be argued about, and let those little dumb things, like, just pick your battles. Like, there's things in my husband that bug me. Yeah, I mean, he's not perfect. I mean, he's perfect for me, but he's not a perfect human being. I'm not perfect. And there's little annoyances, but some of the stuff, I'm just like, I could make a beef about that, but why? Why? Like,
and most of the time is the meaning that you put into that behavior. Maybe that particular behavior has a meaning that is maybe driving or taking a kind of source from the past something that triggers you emotionally from the
Right.
past, you can see it in a behavior that has no intention to offend
Yes.
you or to disrupt the relationship, but because it reminds you something, you put a
Right.
negative meaning onto it, and then you take it wrong. Wow.
That's a great way to say it. Just not too long ago, and this has been an ongoing thing through our whole marriage. I'm a purger. Like, I get rid of stuff we're not using, right? You know, you in your closet. If I'm not wearing this year after year, I'm getting rid of it. Okay. My husband purges nothing ever, but he's a shopper. He likes clothes and he dresses very well. So he doesn't ever get rid of anything though. And I'm like, there's no room in your closet for one more shirt. So like, fine, shop, but then you got to throw something away. Like, you got to give it away, throw it away. Like, you got to purge. And he's just like, he won't do it. And then I'll say, okay, I'll do it for you. He'll be like, don't you touch my stuff. and I'm like, but you have stuff in there you have not worn for 5 years, 10 years. Okay. So that's a little point of contention with me. Right. So there have been times where I literally have gone into his side of the closet. And I did this one time. I bagged up. He likes athletic shoes. Okay. He has a fetish for shoes and he's a gym guy. Okay. So I took all the athletic shoes that he never wears. He never wears them because I can tell, like, that you can tell. I see the ones he wears. And there was probably, I'm going to say 10 pairs at least, maybe 12. I put them in a bag, but out of respect, I didn't give them away. I just put them in the garage. And I thought, if he asks, where are those shoes? I can say, oh, right here. He never asked. 12 pairs of shoes. Never, ever asked. After 6
Maybe
months,
he didn't notice that.
I gave it to the Goodwill, but he didn't even notice they were gone. Yeah, because he has so many. He doesn't even wear them. So I've done that a few times. One time I got rid of all his ties. That was a big mistake. I took his ties to really nice, like designer, Versace, Gucci, all these really cool ties. He doesn't wear ties anymore. Hadn't worn them for years. I took him to a consignment store. I thought, we can get some good money for these. One night, I don't know why he decides he's going to wear a tie this night. Right after I do that, he comes unglued. He goes, where are all my ties? He kept them in a drawer. I go, I took him to the consignment store. Oh my, he went ballistic. He felt so disrespected. And I'm like, you don't wear ties ever. You haven't in years. But he had one jacket that he wanted this one tie to go with. And I said, I will go back to the consignment store and bring them home. And I did. And I got them all back. And I just said, sorry, I'm just trying to. Okay. So the whole reason now, why does that bug me? Why does it bug me that he doesn't purge? I finally figured it out. And I told him not too long ago, I said, you know what? We've moved a lot. Like, in the last 10 years, we probably have moved. I don't know. We've lived in probably 6 different homes. And he's always on the road when it comes time to move. Of course, I got to do the packing and the sorting through. And that's as you know, moving is very stressful. Yeah. And I told him, I said, you know what? I think I'm always preparing for when we move again. And so, like, if we can just
subconsciously, yes,
stuff, it's not all at one time. I said, I think that's what it is in me. Like, I don't know how long we're going to be here. And it's so stressful. And he was like, oh. Now, did he start purging? No.
Interesting. You are so incredible, Danielle. Not only the wisdom you have, but you're such a great storyteller.